Susan, this is BlackBerry's own
Things
Black
have gone
Friday.
from bad to worse for
Today,
BlackBerry.
BlackBerry announced it's cutting its workforce by an astounding 40% in a desperate bid to keep the company afloat.
BlackBerry is cutting its global workforce by 40%. That means 4,500 people will lose their jobs. The Canadian smartphone maker expects to post second quarter losses of almost $1 billion.
You are the CMO of Research in Motion. You've been in that role now for 6 months.
6 months, yes.
Let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing the last 6 months for the BlackBerry brand.
When I joined, I had two main objectives given to me by our CEO, to build a world-class marketing organization on one side, and on the other side, to prepare the launch of BlackBerry 10, our new platform.
Which is, the launch is happening January 30th.
January 30th, global launch.
Sure. So let's now then talk about, because I would imagine from there then you start looking at the brand purpose, if you will, which is a term used a lot these days.
Yeah.
You know, what needs to happen in your view to really overhaul the BlackBerry brand?
So first of all, it starts with the customer. And we need to be absolutely clear about which customers we intend to serve and why we are going to serve them better than the competition.
And so 3 core constituencies would be the consumer, carriers, and enterprises as well, correct?
And application developers. So I can take them one by one, but let's start by the end user, the consumer.
Okay.
We identified a segment that internally we call the BlackBerry people, and they have 3 main characteristics. They are about getting things done. They are about productivity. They want a smartphone that allows them to be more efficient, to go faster, whether it is in their personal life or professional life. So they want a tool more than a toy, if I use a marketing gimmick.
Yeah.
Second, they are hyper-connected. They are heavy talkers, texters, they use social networks, multiple email accounts, etc. And lastly, they are multitaskers. They want to do on a smartphone what you do at your desk without thinking about it. You are on a call, you check your email, your calendar, you're browsing on the website of the person you are talking to, you multitask naturally. You cannot do that easily on a smartphone today. And for that segment, we've optimized the BlackBerry 10 experience so that we answer those needs better than any other product out there.
Okay. All right.
So that's the starting point. You need to identify the segment you're going after. It's roughly speaking 1/3 of the smartphone market. It's a sizable segment. And to develop a unique proposition for them. That's the starting point.
So what can BlackBerry maker Research in Motion do to win back customers? It's counting on its much-delayed BlackBerry 10 operating system and new handsets to get consumers excited. In anticipation, it's added thousands of applications and renamed its App Store BlackBerry World. This is the man trying to orchestrate BlackBerry's comeback, Chief Executive Thorsten Heinz, who has a lot riding on the success of the BlackBerry 10.
He needs to see this work really well, and he needs to see consumers have some level of excitement. And frankly, the bar for the excitement and for the success is probably reasonably low. We're not looking that RIM's going to overtake Apple or Samsung. What we're looking at is something like 5% market share. If they achieve 5% market share, home run.
A far cry from its glory days, when BlackBerry accounted for nearly half of all US phone shipments. Michelle Fleury, BBC News, New York.
It's now undeniable. The new phones that were supposed to save BlackBerry haven't, and likely can't. For it's now clear sales of the new products, unveiled less than a year ago with such hope, are dismal.
It tells us that the comeback strategy that the company had in place as of last year and earlier this year isn't going to work. It isn't working today, it isn't going to work tomorrow.
Donna, the rumors were true. BlackBerry announcing it indeed is going to cut 4,500 jobs. That's nearly 40% of its workforce, hitting the Waterloo, Ontario region the hardest. The company is reporting a staggering net operating loss of nearly $1 billion this quarter. And all of those new Z30s that came out this week that were supposed to help turn things around, they're just sitting on the shelves, leaving the company with a $960 million inventory write-down. all of this inventory with nowhere to go, many analysts say could be the final nail in the smartphone coffin.
The inventory write-down is probably the most troubling statistic of all. Simply, it means that they're making devices faster than they can sell them. Consumers and businesses don't want to buy them. As a result, they spent the money to make them. They're losing money. They're standing on this huge inventory. They have no choice but to write them down if they can't sell them. This is the worst possible position you ever want to be in this business.
How did BlackBerry get to this dismal point?
It's an excellent question, right? And it's one that we've been tracking like a slow-moving accident for years now. The numbers that we saw today, the announcement that BlackBerry had to make today, really is about as bad as it can be. There's no way to describe this as anything but a disaster for this company, and frankly, a culmination of an effort that is now a failure. So the attempt here was to get into the consumer market, to turn itself around with a new product. Dismal failure. They're big numbers, Susan. $1 billion loss in a quarter, just about. $1 billion write-down on unsold inventory, 4,500 people out of work. These are numbers, of course, that will stay with the company. And it's at a time when it's trying to persuade others that it's worth buying. So all in all, I couldn't find anybody today to put any positive spin on this. People used words like disaster.
Tough sell for BlackBerry. There also are tens of millions of users. What happens to the consumers who are holding BlackBerries tonight?
Well, so BlackBerry is also saying today it's pulling away from the consumer market. It'll focus on that core, what they call the enterprise and the prosumer, which is basically corporate users. The thing is, of course, if you're on the fence about what to buy tomorrow, you're not going to buy a phone from a company that might go out of business. May or may not, you don't know. If you already own one, you've probably already had to ask that very question. What's going to happen? Are they going to be around in 4 or 5 years? That's very corrosive and can become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a very negative way for a company that needs customer loyalty and brand loyalty.